Good evening. Welcome to the Town of Auburn Planning Board meeting this Tuesday, April 24th, 2018. Now called to order at approximately 7 p.m. This meeting is being recorded and broadcasted live by Local Access of Programming. Is there anyone here in the audience tonight that is recording tonight's meeting? There being none, please rise, join us, salute to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I'd like to remind the audience, applicants, town administration, and each of the planning board members to please refrain from asking questions regarding to all matters discussed in this evening without first being granted my consent. The first item on our agenda is the 7 o'clock meeting, applicant Total Outdoor Corp. Requesting site plan approval. This meeting has been requested to be continued to May 8th, 2018. Do I open the meeting or just say is there a motion? Is there a motion to continue?
Make the motion to continue the meeting.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So, Mr. Chairman, there's several other public hearings that have been requested continuance, and we can take those now if we'd like. We don't have to wait for the time of the meeting. So we can do all of those now just to get the vote for
All right,
continuance.
we'll go through them. The 7:10 meeting for the applicant Longwood Development Corp. Requesting site plan approval. This meeting has been requested to be continued to May 22nd.
Make a motion to continue the meeting to May 22nd.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And we'll skip to the 7:40 applicant Laith Azuni, requesting site plan approval. This one was also be requested to extend, to continue to May 8th, 2018.
Make the motion to continue the meeting to May 8th.
Second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
The 750 applicant SWEV Development USA LLC, requesting site plan approval. This will be requested to May 8th as well.
Yes.
Make that motion to move the meeting to May 8th, continue to May 8th.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And finally, the 8 o'clock meeting, Masad Family LLC, requesting modification of site plan approval, also requested to move to May 8th, 2018.
Make the motion to move the meeting to May 8th.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next, go through the signatures.
So signatures are not available for our meeting this evening, Mr. Chairman. We have a 45-day clock to write the decisions for site plan approval and 90-day clock to write them for special permits. Just given some of the turn of events that have been happening in the planning division as well as throughout the energy management time, I just didn't have time to put those together.
Okay.
So they should be ready by our May 8th meeting, finalized by May 8th.
Great. Want to do the member discussion or waiting?
Yep.
Member discussion, associate member vacancy. Please contact Mr. Benoit if you are interested. Know anybody else who may be interested? The master plan committee update.
So the master plan committee has moved 3 chapters to final draft phase, those being housing, economic development, and open space. We had to trim down a lot of the studies that took place through grant contracts. We had to trim those down so we didn't have 400 pages across 3 chapters. So those have been trimmed down and pushed towards final draft. Town manager and staff is working on chapter 3, that's for facilities. I'm going to take some information out of the 5-year capital improvement plan and carry that over to the master plan. All of those kind of feed into chapter 2, which is land use and zoning, so the land use and zoning profile of the town. A lot of the recommendations that came out of chapters 4, 5, and 6 will be consolidated into the land use zoning recommendations. Things like bringing new businesses into certain districts or whatnot, like bio research companies, or even things that just don't exist in our bylaws but exist out there in the world today. So that's being that will be addressed internally by the master plan committee, and then they are waiting for an article that'll be a week from today at town meeting to secure funding for a consultant to do the transportation chapter, the circulation chapter anyway. So they'll be engaging Central Mass Regional Planning Commission, hopefully, if the funding's approved, to complete that chapter for the committee. That's our update for now. But once those chapters are completed, you can assemble the final document, bring it back to the planning board for review.
Great. Well, minutes, can we address those?
We have draft minutes for April 10th, just not in time for the board to have to review in advance. So the 327 minutes, Shannon will be completing soon, but those are the last two that are outstanding.
Great. So we've got 16 minutes. Should we request a recess? Make a
Make a motion for recess?
Until 7:20?
7:20? Okay.
Second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Can I get started?
All right, we're going to get started again.
Motion.
May I have a motion to open the meeting?
Motion to open the meeting?
I'll second it.
Thank you. All right, the next meeting up is the 720 applicant, Package Job Farms LLC, a definitive subdivision plan for 7-lot subdivision and construction of a new roadway with stormwater management system located at 71 Curtis Street. Mr. Benoit is going to give us an overview of the project. Oh, may I have a motion
Motion
open?
to open the hearing?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Mr. Benoit will give us an opening
Favor.
overview of the project. and-
Okay.
Yep.
So as many of you know, and many of you in the audience know, this project has some history. So we were here, the original application came in, I believe, in December of 2014. It's for 6 houses on 7 lots for a 4.2 acre lot for a dead-end street. This was approved in April of 2015. Went through a peer review process. We added a handful of conditions to the project as well. And the project did not continue further after that for reasons I'm sure the applicant can disclose and discuss later. So after our decision had expired, the board had sent a letter to the applicant requesting they attend a public hearing to potentially rescind the approval of that subdivision, which is to get rid of it. Mr. Antonelli came in and met with the board and told us the reasons why the project had not taken place, and the board offered to allow him to reapply for this project, and which we're now seeing today. So the plan itself has not changed. The peer review was done back in March from Graves Engineering by the town. I went through 2 reviews, and peer review comments were addressed. So this project won't be going back out for a peer review. It hasn't changed since the last time you guys saw it, but I'm sure we'll go over some of those details once the applicant makes a presentation about the plan. But that being the case, some of the things that we're definitely going to discuss today are some changes to the property, any changes to the plan, and some of the conditions that are no longer effective that need to be addressed. So it's an open, definitive subdivision application, just like it was the time before, but not with all the peer review and design elements. One thing that was still outstanding was conservation application, which I believe was something that is being worked on. So that's the latest and greatest, a little history lesson on the project. And
So how long, when we did that, you said the decision expired. How long was that
Yeah.
original decision good for?
so decisions are good from their recording date, and this decision was never recorded.
Oh, I know. I got
But
it.
also a performance guarantee was never established, a covenant wasn't signed. So none of those things took place. And at that point, a lot of the conditions, and some of them involved road improvements, weren't carried out at the time in which they were supposed to be done alongside the DPW's work on the public portion of Curtis Street. And then more work was done on the private portion of Curtis Street. So there was a handful of conditions that couldn't have been honored anyway. So the board, if a performance guarantee would have came in, would be in an odd spot to sign or to endorse a covenant based on conditions that couldn't be applied. So that's what led to the decision to request public hearing from the applicant to rescind the plan in its own right. So
Now, how do you go about that process to rescind something that's out there?
you hold a public hearing. You tell the applicant that that's what the board's here to vote for. You get public comment, and if the applicant doesn't want to proceed with the project, or does not, the board is within their rights to say that this project's expired or not expired.
Now, what gives us the right to rescind it, though?
Mass General Law.
We can do that under anything we approve at any time. We can make a decision to take it back.
No, there's a general 2-year shelf life on decisions.
Okay, so after that, so even though it's good for forever, pretty much, we can after 2 years make a decision. Perfect. Thank you. All right, would you like to come and give us an overview?
Sure.
State your name, address, and...
My name is Rocco Antonelli, and now I live on the property, 71 Curtis Street, Auburn. And as Matt stated, nothing has changed in these plans except for the construction of 3 houses adjacent, abutting this property, and the abutters list has changed. I believe they're one of the abutters now. Nothing else has changed. You also mentioned some conditions that were contained in the first permit, and that was the widening. We were supposed to contribute to the widening of Curtis Street halfway up the street towards the golf course. I spoke to Mr. Coyle. And it seems that work has already been completed when they redid Curtis Street. I wanted to speak. He was supposed to get back to me. I spoke to him last week, the week before he was on vacation, to discuss what he would like me to do now. I mean, another condition on this project was to repave the section in front of my house. You were part of that permit process? No? Or was it you were?
Just one.
I was.
You were. Sorry.
That's okay.
That to repave in front of my property, which is a private road, and install new berms, and in doing so, get the permission of all of the abutters to the private road to do that. Since then, part of that work has been completed at the end of Curtis Street. I think it was done by the owner. And I wanted to find out from Mr. Coyle if that was still something he wanted us to do. I assume he wants us to do it. The road didn't get better over the period of time. The reason for the delay of this project is my partner was diagnosed with cancer, and she got very ill, and everything just kind of came to a halt. And actually, she's an attorney, and that was the legal part of this project was her end, and that was the reason that we ended up not proceeding back then. So I, like Matt said, I came before the board and I asked them to what I needed to do in order to keep the definitive subdivision plan intact, and they said resubmit, and that's what I did. And the only thing that has changed on these plans, like I said, is the abutters, nothing else. There's also an NOI needs to be filed on this project. I am in the middle of changing engineering firms, and so we're in the middle of that process, and also in the middle of the process of filing the NOI. That there's a portion of this property that hasn't been flagged in a while, but we believe is in the buffer zone of the wetlands. So we plan to address that. Because there's only one person here who had heard this, who was here when we put this forth before, it's been suggested that we continue this until the full board is here.
While it's open, can I just ask a question on this? Since this is he's resubmitting the process, and it sounds like from the last time we approved this, there's a lot of things that didn't go according to plan. Does this open it up to say if we approve this plan to change those conditions and monitor them better? Could
The
you
board
do that to
can
them?
propose new conditions as they see fit. They don't have to reflect the original conditions at all.
Okay. So so if we say, hey, look, we still like the plan, it's just it didn't go according to plan, a lot of things went sideways, and now some time's gone away in the project, so we have to readdress 3 issues. We have the ability to add those onto
Yes.
this. Okay. Okay.
While we're here, there are people who are abutters to this property and who are interested in it, and I don't know if it's out of order or not, but if there's something that I they would like to say in reference to it, I would like to hear that.
We'll definitely open it up to them,
Okay.
but I do think it's probably, since everybody is here, and especially since at least two of us who haven't seen it, if you just quickly run through the project, just real quick, just to give us a, especially if you have new abutters as well, just to see what.
The project is there's construction of a roadway with a cul-de-sac at the end. The name of the roadway has been approved by the town. It's Roomy Circle. There's 1 lot, fronts Curtis Street, 6 lots, front Roomy Circle. There's a drainage parcel that takes up one of the lots, which abuts the land down below, which is Mr. Budio, sorry. And it is our plan to not only do to construct the roadway, but also construct the houses. We're architects and general contractors also, so we have designed the houses that will go on this subdivision, and it's I don't know if this is pertinent in reference to this, but this is the houses that we've designed for this project are a little cutting edge, and it is our hope that this becomes kind of an exhibition space for what we design and build.
What do you mean by cutting edge?
Do you want to say?
You have one? Just haven't heard that description before.
This is New England.
Yeah.
Anything that isn't a colonial is cutting edge, so,
That's true.
So and all these lots are,
I mean, hopefully we're not pushing the envelope too far, but,
lots all look to be about 3/4 to almost a full acre.
Half acre.
not that.
Half acre. So, half acre.
Technically, under half acre. An acre is 42,560 square feet. The 20,000, all builders acres 40,000.
Oh, I got you. Oh, I was looking at the IF 089. The wrong one.
Oops,
Sorry.
perfect. Oh, so you're doing more of a contemporary.
Oh, interesting. Now, and if we got to step, this would be something we'd look at on the next stage, or is this all part of this plan?
It's not typically part of subdivision
Yep.
review, but it's something
Yep.
the board can take into consideration.
That's fine. Interesting. Yeah, looks fine. Great. Before I open it up to the audience, does the board want to say anything now, or do you want to wait till after?
I'll wait till after the comments.
All right, so I'll open up to audience discussion. Please, I have to address you before you speak, just so that we don't get into a conversational issue, plus we can keep order to it. Don't address questions to each other if you don't mind. And I think that's,
Name and address.
yep, name and address as well, so we can keep it things. Yes, and
Mark Solder, 80 Curtis, frequent flyer here for this project. So just want to bring up the other drawing that you had, the one before.
Sure.
So first, I just want to say, so I paved most of Third Street in my pocket. Mr. Coyle asked me not to do that extra part. Okay, if I went to pave that right now, that would be extremely expensive because I arranged it with Mr. Coyle when we did the rest of Curtis Street. Part of this subdivision was that 200 feet was going to be paved. Okay, right now, since it's taking so long, the work that I had paid for is being undermined because the old part is now, sinking in front of Mr. Daniel's house. So that's a problem. So I do hold not only the applicant, but also the town to make good on that, because that was part of the plan. I wouldn't have done it at the time. Okay, but the town stopped me. So my question, a couple of them. First one, if I recall, 3 years ago, if I could think back that far, they said there was a 200-foot site down Curtis Street. You have to look 200 feet each way coming out. There is no way, looking down Curtis Street, that you can see 200 feet. Okay, I've walked it many times around there, walk it every day with my dog. So I do want to challenge that when that comes up. But my biggest concern, but anything else, is the wetlands here and what's behind your property. You know, so I brought up when this was started back in December, the type of retaining wall that is behind this property.
This one.
Yeah, I believe it's this one and now this one, some both. Right, so I don't know what's going to happen when this land is disturbed going downhill. So I think, from what I recall back in 2014, that wasn't really taken into account. The drainage pond here was, okay, but not the impact with these houses and the ledge that's currently there. Okay, so I heard we're going to flag for wetlands, which is here, I don't.
It's actually, see the line in the
Okay.
back?
So on right this area.
That hash line? No, there,
There.
there.
Okay. This area is perpetually wet in Mr. Cole's property. Okay, this needs to be investigated also. When I drove by today, and I believe my phone in the car for a different reason, I don't see how this street fits if this is a wetland area here. Okay, if I get my rate that the fire hydrant is here. So I think a trip down there by the board and looking at it, because as the plan that was originally proposed and never went forward, we never had to bring it, is that this area here is not in reality.
May I just stop you? I did ask a question from Matt on that. So how would that come under review? The wetland?
The Conservation Commission will review that under the notice of intent that Mr. Antonelli intends to file.
And it would be reflagged.
Right, so we have to go through and they'll go through all that stuff.
Okay, but
Thank you.
the site view
Mhm.
and...
Sight line, yeah.
right, is...
And what is that, it's a 200 foot? Is that a town regulation? Or is that just,
I believe it's best practice.
Best
engineering.
practice.
Best practice.
thank
Because
you.
it's a little bit blind, but again, since I paid considerable amount of money to pave the rest of the street, and I had asked the town when we did this not to have the big trucks come up, and they all went up. Okay, so there's damage that was done on the thousands of dollars I paid for, so at this point, I really want that done. I think it's, you know, I'm owed it at this point. But I'll let the others who I think are going to feel most of the pain, unfortunately.
Thank you. Anyone? Yes, sir? Name and address, please?
I'm Frank Cole. I'm at 33 Curtis Street, which is a direct abutter. We go from 33 to 71. But because of the numbering of the streets and the ages, you go down Curtis Street and 33 comes after 50.
Sure.
Across the street and up the hill is 50, then you come down to me and I'm 33. Then
It's amazing you get mail.
it's been interesting. But
Oh, yeah.
what I would like to comment on is the fact that the original approval by the planning board had a number of conditions that I am concerned were never lived up to by this developer. And one of the things I would like you to be aware of, I've lived at 33 Curtis Street since 1968. And when my house was built, the condition of the area was a farm like this one was, that was not being farmed. And prior to 68, there was years of drought. And the contractor who built the houses on my side of Curtis Street had them all sold. I moved in, and the conditions changed and we had a lot of rain. And every one of the houses at that time, we had septic systems. And we all lost our septic systems because the water table rose, and I had to pump my system, and you could stand there and hear the water running into the septic tank as fast as it was being pumped out. So the person that built the house had to come and dig a trench in my backyard, fill it with pea stone. And it turned out that all that did was divert the water coming down Packagug Hill, and it surfaced into what I call a dry brook that's on my property, and it runs into a culvert. And I think he was referring to it. And now we've got a situation, yes, it's right there, and we've got a situation where this has developed, where are we here, through, in here, there's a culvert that goes into, this is the town property, that's the Pappas Recreation Center. And so this now is always wet, and there's a dry brook that runs up into this property behind, and this here is all wetland. And you can see there's water in here that comes down and in here and down. And now there is the houses that are been built on South Oak Road, and this is all a wooded area. I'm getting confused here. Down in here. So you get these houses here that have almost a cliff behind them, and this here is all wooded. And my concern for them is that when work is done and all of this vegetation is removed, that we're going to have they're going to have a problem like I had with the water coming into my backyard and down. So to me, it's kind of a difficult thing, because this area where the culvert is very, very swampy, but it appears to be on my property, but it isn't. It's on the town property.
There's a hydrant there.
So in fact, if you
Could be correct.
if you go down the street and Curtis Street, the right-of-way on Curtis Street ends at my property line. So all of this in here, which appears to the eye being my property, is not property. So when the original project was approved, the developer was supposed to take and contribute to the rebuilding of Curtis Street. And to my knowledge, he never did it. And at the time of the hearings, he had neglected to go to the Conservation Commission. So that finally was done. And the water table, if I remember correctly, was at 6 feet. And now, in here, this is like a little pond, and up in here, when it rains, there is a puddle develops. So I'm concerned that this is becoming a possible wetland. And when they put in the development, one of the reasons for the conditions was they were proposing to put an accepted street into a private street, which you can't do. So on the conditions, they were supposed to contribute to this rebuilding, and then they were to bring the street here up,
To here.
well, I guess it would be to here, from here to here, into acceptable street conditions. So that, none of that is done. Now we have a situation where there are houses here, so there, South Hole Road becomes involved, and it's my contention that because none of the conditions originally put on the acceptance of the plan, that condition should be extended so that their rebuilding of Curtis Street to South Hole Road go from their property line all the way to South Hole Road. And I think the planning board can do that, because I just do not have the confidence that the conditions will be handled in a proper manner, because this is the third time that this development has been proposed, and I think that there should be a condition added that this development work be done before the construction of any homes in that area. I'm not objecting to the fact that they are entitled to use their property and perhaps develop the houses, but I know from experience that if there isn't due diligence, things don't get done. And I think that there might be some validity to not doing things and then have the town fulfill its obligation to the residents of Curtis Street, that this developer then can avoid the expense of the conditions that were put on the acceptance of the project.
Mr. Benoit?
Yeah, thanks Which calls a lot of good stuff. I just want to address a couple of those things. So the way a subdivision works is after there's a decision rendered, it then has to be recorded, and then the applicant has to come forth with a covenant. It's a performance guarantee. Performance guarantee ensures that he does the roadway work first up to a certain point, up to binder course, and then only at that time could he then apply to submit a performance bond of some form, whether it's cash, letter of credit, tripartite agreement or whatnot, posting a certain dollar value to complete the roadway, the entire roadway up to finished grade, after the houses are completed. So the road does have to get to binder course, at least improve to that point where it's passable before he can even start doing any of the houses. And then at that point, he'll post a dollar value before he can even build any houses. This way, if any developer decides to walk away from a project, we still have the money and we can pull that and improve the road. So that's how that part works. The as far as extending the road past the property line, on a private street, that's generally not something we can do. So all we can hold him responsible for is the frontage of his own property. So that's as far as we can get him to improve to town standards. The rest of it's private property rights on both sides of the street, and he'd need that consent from the owners. But it's not something we can require.
Can I add one thing to this?
Let's let him finish his, we'll come back to you.
No, it's quite right. And I know a lot of the questions and concerns are regarding obviously wetlands and water management and stuff. It's just, these are items that would have to be addressed with the Conservation Commission. So we fully expect that notice of intent will be filed, and this board would be well advised not to proceed or go towards a decision until conservation is approved, if not order of conditions issued before the planning board renders its decision.
So this site never went to Conservation Committee?
Yes, we went to conservation, it just never went, it went to conservation.
Yeah, so what it did is they went there for a request for determination,
Mhm.
and they received a positive determination. And positive determination means you got to come back and do a full filing.
So what's the full filing mean?
It's called a notice of intent. That means they have to get it flagged, surveyed, and shown if there's any replication areas, work within the buffer zone, work within 25 feet of the bordering vegetated wetland. If that's the case, there has to be replication areas and stuff. So there's a lot of technical research that goes into that. At that time, it's usually done by wetland scientists.
So we and the last time around never went through that process. So if this does proceed forward, it's going to go in front of that board. There's going to verify all those claims that you made. So it's not that it got through. We neglected them last time. It just never even went to that point. So I think if this does proceed, and you are correct, it's going to be caught in there, and that's going to create the issues. And one question that I had, so where they're talking about with the slope of the hill and the vegetation and these, what report might that be in? Is that a specific one that we?
The peer review from Graves Engineering.
Did we already get that?
Stormwater. Yeah, that was done in 2015. Now, at the time, initially, there weren't houses there. This is an old image, and I had the more recent one up earlier. But the board this project did not change that property at all.
Yeah.
It wasn't changing Mr. Guyot's property in any manner to that degree, and I'll show you one other thing. Stormwater management takes it off the corner. Now, the waste engineering for, John, you could probably do a little better about this than I can, but stormwater management takes like a peak rate flow for like the entire site, right? And as long as you're not increasing that, that's generally considered good practice, even if you're channeling through like an emergency spillway. I'm not sure exactly how that peer review piece
Right,
works, but
I understand the abutters' concerns that once you wipe out all the trees and vegetation, that you're going to have runoff until the vegetation is regrown. It can hold its own against erosion. So until that's done, the drainage system only works for the road.
correct. So it
Doesn't
leads
do anything
to
behind the houses.
kind of leads to the point I wanted to make about maybe if the board considers additional erosion control measures for clearing, just on the perimeter for those three houses. Something you consider that's lining up wattles and and
So I've actually had this discussion. with
Wait,
the-
wait until, you just ask, so, because otherwise, you know how this is gonna go. It's
You
not
can see a
gonna
bunch
go.
of them on here, Mr. Chairman. He's already got a ton of them shown right here. And that's for the roadway construction. This doesn't show as it goes for the houses. But this stormwater system has to be in place before any roadway work can really begin. So-
Right. Yeah, and I just want to get a couple of those out there. You can keep in mind, he's asking for a continuance. We're not making a decision tonight, so we'll be coming back. So we don't have to get everything out on the table tonight, but since everybody is here, we do kind of want to go through it. So I appreciate it. Did you want to respond to anything right now?
Well, I've actually discussed this, the issue with the abutters, and with the developer of those 3 parcels that they had mentioned, where there's concrete retaining blocks put in place now, and, you know, that we need to have erosion control in order to prevent anything from damaging his property below where his houses are already sold, and I'm in the process of building houses. I mean, it was a pretty friendly discussion as to me knowing what I had to do and him wanting it done.
Great.
And if there's conditions that have to be put in place to do that, I don't have, I would do that anyways, but if, that they can be conditions of the permit also, I intended to do it anyways.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak? Oh, yeah, yep, sorry, I wanted to come back one more time.
No, just another observation as far as conditions are concerned. When you look at the map, can you do that?
Yeah.
Right here, the accepted right-of-way for Curtis Street brings the right-of-way is to this point. That's where my pin is. And there's a huge tree right here, and my pin is right in front of that tree. So when this is connected, this is all town property. And so I don't know how this can be, connected. I'd love to own this piece of property, by the way. But I just want to point out that would be the town's land. And if in the reconstruction, if there's any shifting of the right-of-way, that should be included in the construction from my line to where he's going to be putting in an acceptable street. And one of the things that had come out in the hearings before was that you cannot build a accepted street into a private street. So physically, if you look at Curtis Street, beyond this point, I don't know whether it's physically in any kind of a right-of-way. So I think there should be some legal determination where the right-of-way actually is.
Thank you. Matt?
Sure. So the right-of-way in the town clerk's office is based on an estimation of feet, length of road. And from our gatherings, it is like bringing this line straight across. Okay. Now, last condition said that this road was going to be improved all the way to the edge of lot 71. That means the new public right-of-way, if the project was completed, would be here. It would be in here instead.
Mm-hmm.
And just one further comment. I think you should be appraised that South Holt Road is little used right now, but there are 3 houses there. And with the additional traffic that is being developed and the way the street, President Street is the private part, I don't believe, and I'm not a construction person, but it seems to me that what existed on that private street cannot take any additional traffic that is being used today. And I think either the town or somebody is going to have an expense, and I believe that the developer of the project should take and assume the responsibility financially of doing the work from what he is committed to do under the old conditions and continue to down to South Overall.
Yeah, Mr. Benoit already addressed that point. We'll look at it again, though. Yes, sir.
When he's putting the road into this project.
I'm sorry, excuse me, name and address for the minutes.
Warner Hill, 73 Curtis Street, here's the butter.
Thank you.
When they're putting the road into that cul-de-sac, which side of the property is it going on?
We'll pull it up on the map, we'll show you.
Pretty much down the middle.
Opposite yours.
Yes.
On the other side of my house.
Now, here's the problem right now. There's tons of water on all that property. I've been here 43 years, and you're not gonna get rid of the water. It's under there, and it's gonna stay there. He has a problem with it coming down to his property. First of all, I'd like to ask a very serious question, I might be wrong. When you're building on property, does a mortgage have to be paid off? I had to pay my mortgage off when these people were allowed to build. It had to be completely paid off.
No, I'm actually a banker and you
Now,
don't have
what
to.
happens, this house has been almost taken by the bank 3 times within the past 5 years. Where is his money coming from?
That's out of the scope of this meeting and I don't want to go down that path.
In other words, I don't want him building there, and then the property's gonna be a mess after.
Exactly. What Matt pointed out earlier, what would happen is would have
I think
the
this is what's gonna
would
happen.
have the money secured ahead of
She ain't
time.
got nothing to pay
Please
off.
don't get adversarial with us.
That's what I want to know. 3 times that property.
Do you have anything other to add on the site plan?
Yes. On my driveway, all the walls are falling down completely, the trees are falling down, who's gonna take care of this? It's her responsibility. And I'm gonna have boulders the size of this room in my yard,
Thank you.
okay? But you're not gonna get rid of the water.
I assume those are coming down.
Yes, sir.
Christian Dursa, 176 Southhold. We're the new abutters to the developer's property. We have some significant concerns considering, as the developer stated, he spoke to the previous developer developing those 3 properties, and 2 of which were built with retaining walls. My house, unfortunately, was not. For some reason, the town allowed that house to not be built with a retaining wall. So I have roughly 20 to 25 feet from my foundation to where the hill starts to slope. From the developer's property, I have a significant amount of water as it currently stands coming down the hill to that property, to my property, where my children play in the backyard, and we plan to utilize that as a family with young children. My concern being that as heavy equipment runs across his property, clearing land, taking away vegetation that helps to absorb that water and contain that hill, that my property is going to be negatively impacted to the point of water intrusion, whether it be in my foundation or my backyard that now my family potentially cannot use. I don't want my kids playing in a mud hole. As it stands, I already have water coming from this property. Also, my concern is the hill moving as the heavy equipment goes up. The trees are taken down, the vegetation holding back that hill, absorbing that water, keeping that area stabilized is removed, foundations are dug, roads are put in. Their not septic piping, but their town and sewer piping is going to disrupt where the current water table is, and I will be one of the people negatively impacted, as well as some of these neighbors. Now, if that were to happen, I absorb this cost as he makes money building houses. I then pay to repair mine, to address my water issues, my property issues. It's somewhat tough to swallow, considering the town already, in my personal opinion, lapsed, letting a home be built without a retaining wall. I had no recourse because I already had paperwork signed. But now I do deal with the negative impact of the water currently. My children deal with it as we go to play in our backyard, and the potential of my backyard shrinking and becoming a pond is not one that I really want to take on, considering what I spent, what I give to this town in my taxes every single year. I have no problem with contributing positively to a great town such as this. I don't necessarily know that this would be a positive contribution to a brand new resident such as myself with children. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. I just want to see if there's anyone else before we come back to you. Yes, sir. Name and address?
Yeah, Tom Townsend, 169 and 170 South Old Road.
Thank you.
My biggest problem is the retention pond. The overflow pipe for that retention pond is pointed right straight at my land. And the Conservation Commission was up there when we did a walkthrough, and they said they had a problem with that, but it never got addressed because it was never addressed.
Right.
And
And again, if this goes through, it would be a conservation, would finish the conservation up, which they probably would have, if they were saying that to you in front of you, it's probably where it would ended up as an issue. So that's where we'd catch it the next time around, but go ahead. No, he's still speaking.
well, I just want to mention that I don't want to hear that that's a 100-year retention pond and it's never going to overflow, because when they approved the permit to build the houses up around the golf course, they had a retention pond up there too, but all the silt came down and filled the pond on my property. Used to be about 8 feet deep, now it's about 2 feet deep. And I don't want to get hit again. And I won't. That's basically my 2 cents.
Thank you. Well, we'll come back around over here.
Mr. Benoit, I may have missed something 3 years ago. How did part of the private road become public the street could go into?
I'm not sure.
So go back to the drawing,
Yeah.
please. Sorry,
Sure.
So if I heard correctly, you may not have, is that private road starts here.
Correct.
The road's here.
Mhm.
You can't put a new road into a private road. So how does this happen?
The entirety of Curtis Street through the chair, the public portion would be extended to the end of his lot line.
How does he-
He'd have to improve that section.
How
of
does he
road
do
to
that
private roads.
and impact Mr. Daniels, who owns half that street?
He would need his consent.
So, okay, I just want to make sure that's clear. And I think you may need consent of everybody on the street, correct? Right, so you can figure where that's going. The other thing, can you go back to the old map, please?
It gets,
Please, you just answered this question.
just through the chair, and I'll
Okay.
bear in mind I'm not an attorney.
Yep.
Okay. There's more than just access rights and ownership rights to private roads.
Yes.
Now, anyone who lives on those roads can improve the roads, as you all know, as you
You
have done
approve,
recently.
but not adding in
What do you mean by adding?
a street in. Those laws are pretty straight.
Correct. Well, we're
Right.
talking about the improvement of Curtis Street.
The improvement's fine, okay, but you still need to have the permission, but adding that street in is what I'm talking about. Can you go back to the old map, the satellite image, I'm sorry?
This one?
Because I just learned something today. Can you scroll down so this back is? So, this is probably 90s?
This is 2006 or so.
So these trees here are dead. Okay, and I didn't realize until here, So all the water that's coming onto the town property is now trailing right down there. And these are all dead because of root rot. Okay, I had this problem, I brought this up many times when we were doing pack drug, the ballparks and everything. So now I understand where this root is coming. Okay, so, you know, pack drug means hill of many streams. Right? That's the definition in whatever language that it is. So this is a prime example. If you could go to the current image and scroll over back to there. If you can blow that up, I'm not sure. They're dead. Okay, that was a weeping willow that probably is over 100 years old. Weeping willows like water, right? They got flooded out. So there is a problem on this hill. I now have to talk to Mr. Coyle because now I know where the water's coming from, which is the town. Okay, so that's a problem. But this is a good example. Tommy Thompson is going to get flooded out with that thing. The people on South Old, there's no way. I really encourage the board to walk that part of the Curtis Street and around in the property and see what's happening. If you go onto my property right here, it is a stream that's now formed. I can't walk there any longer for everything, but you can see that this whole area back here is fundamentally become wetlands. And again, it's from the water dumping on down. It wasn't there before. And actually, there was grazing cows because there's evidence back there of farmlands and hillside or hillcrest area and whatever.
Thank you. Mr. Benoit?
I mean, I can definitely validate that, having done survey and engineering and stuff alongside the hiking trail that was constructed in certain areas, so we noticed intermittent streams in that area. But that being not part of the parcel that's in question, I understand it is part of the river system. That's one thing. But as far as we're back to wetlands and conservation again, it's just making sure that those tents filed and hopefully, if it's approved prior to this board taking the vote.
Right, yeah, I just want the audience to understand our powers, and 90% of your concerns as a conservation concern, and nothing comes to us until they approve it. So if this is really it's not going to get out of there. So I don't want to belabor the point of hydrology right now, because I'm not a hydrologist. We get reports to do that, and we go off the scientific. As much as we want to hear the comments, the report's going to come back and tell us what the water, and we have to go off that. But again, that's going to be addressed in a highly scientific, and this conservation committee, they're not really aggressive. I mean, you take a fine look at all, especially water, anything environmental. It's going to be gone over the fine-tooth comb. I think where the frustration is, and I would have it too. I have it now hearing it. Is that it feels like this project was already moving. It just never got through that level of due diligence to either confirm what you're saying or deny it and move on. So for this to go forward again, it's going to go through that process and have the testing to see what's happening on that. We're more on the site design, move forward. Again, this is going to be continued. We're not making the decision here, so we don't have to spend 2-3 hours here. I mean, we want to hear all the comments while everybody is here, but if we could try not to repeat those things, we've got them all on video. I'd appreciate that. So we'll come back one more time, sir. It's going to be good.
I promise I'll try to make it brief. But I want to impress upon you that our concerns are real. And for the people the new people on South Old Road, believe me, there was a period of one of the hurricanes that came, and the water from the golf course came down to that pond on South Old Road, and it blew out the culvert and created a washout that took and changed the course of the brook that comes out of the diversion tunnel. So, believe me, we are keenly aware. And I went to a member of the Conservation Commission, and expressed my concern, and I specifically asked them about the enforcement. And I was told the only enforcement they have is if a citizen complains. And that means that that citizen has to identify themselves and become public knowledge in order
Right.
for them to enforce a review of compliance with the conditions that they make. They do not take and do any inspection.
Right.
And it's crazy. So,
It is, but that's also,
I know.
you're talking about it to us, and there's nothing I can do about it. It's Conservation Committee.
But you will also are in charge on the other end. When the building inspector enforces the inspection of the project, the town engineer, somebody, but you are, right now, you are a contact for us to impress upon boards in the town to see to it that our interests are protected. We depend upon you to help us.
Well, yeah, I just want, we're volunteer board members. We've
I
got the
know.
finest town planner, central Massachusetts right here. He'll take your, he's the liaison, he's the guy, and I don't want to, I'm just telling everybody, give him a call. He's going to be the guy who can walk you through these type of issues. We only make decisions on, honestly, I don't know this stuff. I don't. I'm a volunteer who just listens and tries to balance it. The town planner, and that's what we take it through. You do it individually, walk through the process, and guide you through it. And Matt, you want to add a little bit more? to
Sure,
that?
and that's why I'm kind of advising the board to make sure that conservation is handled first prior to
Right.
us rendering a decision.
So we agree and hear with you, and we are waiting, we're not doing anything until we hear, until those items have been snuffed out. So,
Please go to the Concom meeting.
right, well, I'll open it up to you guys. So I just don't want to belabor the point, because if you,
Them.
we can't do anything about it, but we are going, as Matt just said, we're definitely not making any decisions until we saw this report, which is addressing every single one of those issues. Scientifically, they're going to go out there and do it, not a bunch of volunteers like us. You don't want us doing this type of stuff.
Well, Matt is an asset for the town.
He truly is. He doesn't get enough credit, but he does tonight. So if you don't mind, may I open it up to the board members to make a few comments?
Wanna go first, Wendy?
No, you go ahead, John.
You sure?
Yeah.
All right.
Can I go to?
I don't,
No, go ahead.
to kind of put everybody's mind at ease, I believe it is in the Mass General Law that if you put a development in, you cannot increase the water flow to somebody else's property.
Correct.
Correct?
Correct.
Doesn't mean he's going to decrease it, but he can increase it.
Correct.
If he does, then he's liable to make the reparations to make it right. Correct? So now going through the plans, I'm going through the plans. One thing I don't see is a legend. So anybody that's looking at this other than myself on this planning board, and I don't mean to belittle anybody,
No, I don't.
doesn't really know what they're looking at.
No.
I happen to do it for a living. So there isn't a legend on sheet 4. I think because of Mr. Townsend's concerns, that even though it's a conservation issue of where that outlet is for the drainage, that should be shown on the plan and the topography of that area to see where that water is going to flow or possibly flow. And then we go to sheet 5. If you look at the sewer manhole at the intersection of Curtis and Roomy Circle, is that sewer manhole being replaced?
Are we talking about the one on Curtis?
Yes.
It was, in my recollection, yes.
Okay, if it is, then I have no idea why the engineer drew a drop connection of 2 feet.
Don't know.
You don't
I'm not
need
an
it because
engineer.
if you have a slope there of 0.005%, if you bring it down to the proper elevation, you only have a slope of 0.0. 7 per foot.
I may have spoke too soon. I'm going to assume that Graves would have picked up in the peer review on any issues that were of concern.
Graves had their chance.
I'm not criticizing you.
Graves had their chance, they did their review, and now it's my turn.
Okay,
They pick up a lot of stuff that the reviewers don't get.
okay.
So, number one, there shouldn't be a drop manhole at all. There's no blow off of the high point of the water main. There's no slope indicated on the 12-inch RCP drain. There's no slope anywhere on the RCP drain. And then anybody that buys a lot on the south side, I hope you're kind enough to inform them they'll need a grinder pump if they want to service more than the first floor, because the foundation will be below sewer.
Yep. I'm
And then
familiar
you-
with the ejection process.
This is just, you know, a quick run through by me. If you go to landscaping plan, the sidewalk's not labeled, I don't know if it's there or not, I haven't got a clue. It looks like there is one, there may be one on both sides of the
There's
street.
actually a note in the conditions that addresses the sidewalk?
It should be on the plan.
Okay.
And then, is the sidewalk on both sides of the street?
No, it's in the
It only
conditions.
goes up to the end of the cul-de-sac.
And it's a waiver request.
So my question is, when you show the roadway, up here, we don't, you kind of give a radius, but you don't give a diameter of the cul-de-sac. I assume it's 120. I'm not sure what the town bylaws say. Is
It
it
says in
140?
the zoning district. I'll have to go check.
Because it has to be big enough
Oh,
for
oh,
a fire truck to turn around.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but you're rattling off all of these things and
Excuse me,
creating...
you can't interrupt them, that's the point.
But I need to know what he wants me to change.
Oh, okay, so do
It'll be
you?
in
I
the
can't
next
just,
meeting, and you
like-
can watch the meeting on.
Yeah, it'll be in the minutes, it's all
Okay.
recorded, you have it right there. So just,
All right.
just please, and John, if you want, when you want him to respond, just let, so
Yeah.
I can direct him to come, just so we can know who's picking up and who's ending. Oh, actually, let's him figure that.
It looks like you're redlining. Would you mind sharing that with the applicant once you
Sure.
completed your review?
Yeah, so that'll help a little bit more.
That'll help a lot.
Absolutely. I mean, if you want me to wait until the meeting's closed, that's fine. I'll spend some time with them and go through it unless the butters want to hear us.
I'll be honest, I'm interested in hearing it. I don't know enough about this, and he was kind enough to volunteer his time, and he has far more knowledge about the subject than I would imagine most of us do.
It's just, it's the little things, it's the devil's in the details. Like, I don't know why the water main's only 5 feet away from the drain. It can go on the edge of the road. It makes it easier for somebody doing a repair. Same with the sewer's 5 feet away from the drain. I have such a broad list of things. No warning tape above the water main, no warning tape above the electric line, telephone or cable TV. The right-of-way is not 40 foot, that's the width of the roadway. The right-of-way is from property line to property line. That should be correct on the plan. There's no water service detail, so even if the town engineer came out and looked, or the water department came out, there's no detail on the plan to show them how to properly put in the water service. Same thing with the sewer service, there's no Y detail. On one sheet you show a standard asphalt berm, and on the next sheet you say it's a Cape Cod berm. The detail's not a Cape Cod berm. You show a 2-foot weir at the end of the spillway, but it doesn't really give me an idea how high it is. The engineer designed this on the hydrant for a thrust block. It's kind of old school. Usually when you dead end a line like that, the hydrant is used as a blow-off, and you put fill lock gaskets in the last 60 feet of the pipe, so you can rod everything together, and then you can put a thrust block behind it for belt and suspenders. And then you show the weir, kind of, sort of, but is the weir level with the flared end? I don't know, there's no grade on it. And then the calls for 12 inches of compacted gravel underneath the manhole. I don't know what's the engineer's intent to call that stone. It's usually 3/4 inch stone, a foot deep. And just so everybody knows, if you put a sewer line in the street, it's covered with stone, it's going to carry the water away from the property and to the main in the street. Same with the sewer connections to the houses. It's gonna create its own subdrain, to a point. It's not gonna cure everything, but, on the manholes, it just says brick for raising the manhole covers. Those should be fired or called sewer brick. No one puts a brick in the invert of a drop manhole, but I think you should eliminate that anyway. There's no detail, plan view of the line coming into the new manhole, whether you tap into the existing manhole or you put in a new manhole. There should be a plan view to show the curvature of the invert. I can keep going.
I can tell.
No, I think we got it.
All right. That's what I'm wondering. I want me to keep going? or
Yeah, no, I think
I'll
we got
spend
it.
time with them after the fact.
No, yeah,
May I recommend?
tonight?
I almost recommend being able to set up a meeting with your engineer and Mr. Regan to go over some of these things collectively, just between the two of them.
Well, I understand
Or future engineer.
he's critiquing the gentleman's plans, and you say, well, you could have done this, but it should have been done that way. I guess my question is because someone designed something differently than you would design it?
No, excuse
Does it
me.
make it incorrect?
No, you got it totally wrong. I'm
Okay.
here for the best interest of those people and the town.
No, I understand
If I
that.
see something on the plan that doesn't meet the standards of today,
That-
I'm gonna tell you that.
That's-
Whether you
that-
think it's criticizing
No,
the
you
plans
can't,
or
you
not,
can't, John,
really isn't a concern to
let's
me.
not go down this path.
Okay.
We'll talk about it after the, no, we can't go down that path. So, we're all okay now? Wendy, you sure?
We'll wait
Thank
for
you.
the next one.
Thank you very much. So, we'll probably have a motion to continue this, is that what we want to do right now? So, to which meeting?
That's up to the applicant. The time
I
to-
see no point in coming before this board before I do the NOI. And I need to know everything that this gentleman wants changed on the plans that become a condition of me getting a chance at being accepted, because he just tore them apart.
So do you need more time than May 8th? I mean, we have to-
Absolutely.
We have to keep it open.
I'm not going to flag the wetlands and do all of that by May
It's
8th.
impossible
So-
by May 8th.
So here's the thing.
Let Matt finish this.
So here's the thing. So definitive subdivision plan submittal has 135 days for this board to render a decision. Okay, this is
Did you say,
definitive.
I'm sorry, 130?
135 days. Okay. Now that an extension can be requested by the applicant and granted by the board, but it's a hard deadline otherwise. And that means rendering a decision by then, closing out, having conditions, having it drafted and stamped in by the town clerk. That all needs to take place within 135 days. That being the case, you can ask for extensions of that deadline. The point being, as to why I bring that up, so as we continue these things, we don't want to stretch that out too far. So I don't even mind continuing this over the next meeting or even the May 22nd meetings, give the applicant time to put their notice of intent and application together, go over some of the items that Mr. Regan has pointed out with the engineer, whether it's that engineer or a new engineer that you said you were transitioning, trying to find. And, but the other reason I don't want to, I wouldn't recommend withdrawing or anything until then, is because we still have an active public hearing after this, which was a request to rescind the original plan. So those things remain active. You withdraw one, you lose them both, and then you have no plan. So I think it'd be in the applicant's interest to continue, but it's in the board's
When
purview,
is the
depending-
135 days?
from the date that this was received by the town clerk.
Oh, okay.
So, what, the 19th of March or something?
Yep.
So it almost,
4th of April.
okay, so 35 days from then.
Okay.
But if you need time to, at least more than 2 weeks, recommending continuance to the May 22nd meeting. And if you need a continuance from there, you can always request it.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Motion to continue to May 22nd.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Okay. And just for the public, if notice of intent application is filed with the Conservation Commission, you'd be notified by the applicant of the date of that hearing and that time too. But May 22nd, Tuesdays at 7 p.m., it would be in this room someplace. So, thank you for coming out this evening and for your comments. Appreciate it. Have a continuance.
Thank you guys for volunteering to come for this.
Thank you.
That was fun.
Thank you.
No, thank you. You can take that.
Yeah.
Take it?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Oh, great, thank you. Here, thank you.
Have a good night.
Take care.
Good night.
Take care, thank you, guys.
Thank you. Somebody forgot their hat.
No, I didn't.
I'm gonna hit the men's room real quick, if that's okay.
You want to take a 5-minute recess?
No.
Okay, no. All right.
Have a good evening.
You too.
No.
Yep.
Okay.
Other people don't take that.
Oh, we went to the bathroom. All we had to do was adjourn. There's nothing else to do.
Yeah.
Oh, we're all done?
Yeah.
We can't do this. We only have to say what 7:30 is?
Yeah, thank you. We should continue that also.
I don't have to open it because it's being continued, right?
It's the board's, as the applicant, so. You don't have to open it, it's already
So I'm talking to
continued.
myself?
Well, it's just, we're discussing it as to continue it and towards which date.
Okay.
I would recommend the 22nd.
You really are about to talk to yourself.
So are those going to be LEED certified, green, or?
Doesn't look like they're going to be much, does it? Unbelievable.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, so next up for well, it's not discussion, continued from March 27th to 7:30 meeting, applicant, the Auburn Planning Board, requests to hold public hearing to discuss potential rescission of definitive subdivision approval in accordance with MGL, Chapter 41, 81, and Auburn Subdivision Rules and Regulations, Section 6.3, for a subdivision known as Packagug Farms, 71 Curtis Street.
Make a
So,
motion to continue to May 22nd.
I'll second it.
all those in favor?
Aye. Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Aye.
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 No.